must agree with Hitler. Like, give me a break.
No, I'm saying he had the same kind of, ideology.
No, but
that he wanted only his, his race to be the superior race, and everybody else is kind of his
I'm not a supremacist.
chattel or something.
I refuse to believe that being a nationalist makes me a supremacist of any kind.
So what is a nationalist?
A nationalist is just someone who believes that the nation state is of paramount importance and that basically all nations are entitled to exist and have full sovereignty.
Okay, so it's got nothing to do with the kind of people in the nation.
Yeah, of course it does.
So why didn't you say that?
So what?
I asked you was a nationalist.
Yeah.
You didn't include that in the definition.
Right, we can talk about then what makes a nation. I'm just saying a nationalist. Basically, allow me to. So there are two sort of variants of nationalism, right? You can have civic nationalism and ethnic nationalism. Now, I don't like calling myself an ethno-nationalist because that does have connotations of wanting a sort of all-white ethno-state, and I'm not so much on that train, but I'm definitely not a civic nationalist. So an ethnic nationalist is someone who thinks that the state is in some way, or the nation is in some way, racially defined. This is the way it was through all of history.
So you don't believe that?
I agree more with the ethnic nationalists than I do with the civic nationalists.
That's what I'm saying. So you are an ethno-nationalist.
I'm not an ethno-nationalist. I just agree with
when you agree with an ideology, that means you...
No, hang on a minute. I'm distinguishing between, and you could say this is a sort of pernickety, irrelevant distinction, but I'm distinguishing between ethnic nationalism and ethno-nationalism. Ethno sounds kind of nasty. It sounds more sort of supremacist, Ethnic nationalism,
But it's just semantics, Hyde. Probably it is.
Call it what you
want.
But
do you not consider it to be semantics only?
Okay, then let's do away with the semantics and let's just say there are two types of nationalism. One which believes that a nation is racially defined, and one that believes that ideas are all that matter. And I think that people, the ones who think that ideas are all that matter, these are the people who are going to basically just invite foreigners in who actually, turns out, don't share your ideas at all. And so you lose your nation, and you lose your genes, and you lose your ideas.
So basically, what would be your ideal state of this country?
I'm a sort of traditionalist, paleo-conservative type. So I'd like to see a cultural homogeneity maintained. Now, does this mean?
So you would like to see
cultural homogeneity?
Okay, which means anyone other than the white race shouldn't exist here.
No, not exist. I'm not pro ethnic cleansing. I'm not pro.
No, not cleansing in the sense, but at least maybe through immigration.
Yeah, I'd like to cut immigration.
So in other words, anyone who is not white English, you don't want them here.
I would.
In the simplest terms.
No, it's just that I don't want the majority. I mean, I don't want to get rid of them. Otherwise, that's most of my friends gone.
So you don't want them to be the majority, but they are not the majority. They are still the minority.
Okay, right. I'm glad you say that. They will be if current immigration rates continue.
No, if current birth rates continue.
Both. Yeah, both. I want to. Fine. If you want to talk about incentivizing the white population to have babies as well, fine. Yes.
Yeah, sure. It's raining. Barely raining. Come on.
How can
you want your?
You mean if they're like French or German or Irish or Norwegian?
What is your view about?
If they're Northwestern European, I guess we could. I'd be fine with some coming in. But even
he wants a majority to be white.
Few black faces.
have different colours.
Okay, so sorry, what's the name?
What Norwegians don't? Jacob.
Jacob, I'm Hashim.
Yeah, I've seen your videos.
So basically, you're okay as long as the non-whites are in the minority. You're okay with that? Is that what you're saying?
I don't want them to be like 49% of the country. This is not
yeah,
like
of course.
Let's say I think Nigeria should be for the Nigerians, by the way. Like, just in the same way the English should be for the English.
You want England to be what it used to be.
Exactly. That's a lovely way to put it.
What, you mean colonialists?
No, I mean,
are you one of those people?
So you don't want them to come here, but it's okay for them to go to other countries.
No, I'm not.
Steal their wealth.
Okay, hang on.
Butcher the people. Rape the people. But as long as this country is okay.
Wait a minute. What about South Africa? What about South Africa? What do you want to say about South Africa?
I think we're all over the place. Let's stick to one topic.
From where?
the people, the whites.
You mean the Dutch, the Afrikaners living in South Africa?
What's wrong? Yeah, exactly. What's wrong with having a variety of people in your country?
Hang on a minute. Can I just respond to your
Yeah, sure.
point? Right. So, because this is a very good. I'm happy you said that. Right. You acknowledge, right? There is something, instinctively in you that colonialism is something that is wrong. It is wrong to go into someone's land and to basically, make them either a minority or dominate them when you have no
By force.
to the culture there.
By force.
Sure.
No. There's a big difference between immigration and by force. So, for example, if somebody invades a foreign country and takes over that country, yes, and not only takes it over, basically sucks all his resources, kills his people, rapes them, basically
wait a minute.
turn them into chattel, And then
That's not what happened.
well, really?
Yeah,
have you
this idea-
looked into the?
I have actually. So the idea that we
So they just walked into a country and
plundered-
said,
hang on,
"Can
wait,
we
wait.
rule you, please?"
Allow me.
And they allowed them,
no,
didn't
no, I'm not saying that we deny them sovereignty. Absolutely.
Okay.
I would never.
So what's
I don't
force?
advocate
What's
colonialism.
force involved?
Hang on a minute.
Oh, you don't?
You mentioned resources. Okay. This idea that we plundered the resources from colonized
You didn't?
nations.
Africa and Asia?
And we made
No,
them
you
poor. That's actually nonsense. No, it's not. It comes from a Marxist theory actually called world systems theory, which says there's the core, there's the West, which is endlessly exploiting nations, and then there's the periphery, always the exploited, unfortunate third worlders, and it's nonsense.
Are you not aware of for example?
No,
You know that
African. Why did colonized countries GDP? Sorry. Why did the GDP of colonized countries go up under colonialism, under colonial rule, and then when decolonization began, GDP just goes whoa, not rising anymore?
No, but they didn't benefit.
Europeans
Wait.
out there
I like the way you put the GDP went up, but who benefited from that GDP?
Not us.
Not you, really?
Yeah.
So wait a minute.
It made us poor running the
Wait. You're telling me that the British actually went out, they colonized the country at a loss. Is that what you're telling me?
I'm not saying they went out to do it a loss. I'm saying it ended up being that way. Of course, they didn't go. Oh yeah, let's make ourselves poor.
No, but did they benefit from it or not?
I would say very minimally. I would say
Minimally, really?
basically.
I don't think you have read the history.
I think I have actually.
Okay, so
that's fine.
So what you're saying is
I
that
recommend you look at Alternative Hypothesis blog.
if you look at the East India Company, how it actually ended up becoming.
Okay, the EIC is not Britain. Sorry, I interrupted you. Please.
It's not Britain.
EIC is not.
Where was it based? Where was the headquarters based?
That doesn't matter. It's a
No.
corporation.
Where was their headquarters based?
It doesn't matter.
It does matter.
It doesn't. That's like saying.
So let me get this right. So if a company,
hang on, is Google the? Okay, I'll let him.
if a company is based and registered in England,
Yes.
it is not an English company.
No, it's not England. I'm not saying.
Ordained by the
It's not England. So where is it?
said-
No. Of course, it's not England, but it's an English company.
I know. All I said.
The
was
name
I said-
itself says East
I said
India.
the EIC is not tautologically equivalent to the British Empire. That was my.
I didn't say it was the British Empire.
Okay,
It
right.
colluded with the British Empire.
Yes, that's true.
And you're saying that doesn't matter.
I know. I'm saying.
So if you collude with a terrorist, are you not a terrorist?
That depends.
It's a good analogy, do you not think?
It's a
You are
reasonable
you
analogy.
no it's a realistic analogy because that is exactly what happened during 9/11. You know why they
in what
you
way?
know why they invaded Afghanistan?
Yeah.
Because they
I'm
thought
against it.
they thought
I'm
that
against
Osama bin Laden actually was given shelter by Afghan people.
Yeah.
Yes, and that's the reason they had every right to destroy Afghanistan. Just for that reason.
Yeah.
Now I'm saying the East India Company, which colluded with the empire, with the king, and then they actually overtook India. So they went on the pretext of trading with India.
Yeah.
Yes. At that time, India was basically India, Pakistan, Bangladesh. All these countries were one country.
Yeah.
Yes. And then they plundered that country to its bones, basically. And
That's actually not really true, though.
well, you go look it up, and you'll see the reason why. This country, which had the highest GDP before the colonialists came, yes, they actually.
Okay,
let
sorry.
me finish.
Let
Let me
me
finish.
finish. I apologize.
And by the time they left, they had actually plundered the country to such an extent that they are suffering to this day for what happened to them during the colonialist period.
Okay.
Now, the people of India did suffer. Do you not agree?
Of course
Yes,
they did. No one denies that.
Yes, and under the British rule, yes, they did so. So this colonialism is a very bad thing. It is not something that they. I'm not saying the countries did not benefit from it. Of course, there was some benefit, yes, but I think they lost more than they benefited. For example,
You could argue that.
the benefits I say is like maybe they had this transport system, postal system, education system. These things were instilled, and I think they still are proud of those. So if you go to India and places like that, they're still part of their Victorian schools and so on.
It's the railways that everyone like me makes the argument.
But that was a good thing that happened
Yeah.
because of. But do you know why those things were there in the first place? It was to benefit the Raj.
Yes,
So the
yes.
postal system benefited the Raj, the transportation system, and also the education system. However, the majority of the people who lived in poverty, who were impoverished by the Raj. Yes, I think their progeny is still suffering to this day because of what happened to them during the Raj. Now you tell me which of what I just said you disagree with.
All right. There was a lot of. Okay. So,
Yeah.
Thank you. So I apologize for interrupting you.
No, that's fine.
So all right. So the claim, just because you quickly said the first thing about GDP, which GDP was so high before before the Raj.
Yeah, it was.
And then it just goes down. That's actually only sort of half true. So GDP as a percentage of the world, like proportion of world GDP, was much higher before percentage of
Of
world
India,
GDP. of India before colonization. Okay, what you're not taking into account is that actually other world economies. So like it still grew. Okay, like as a proportion of the world GDP, it shrunk, but as GDP, you know, like as an absolute, it still increased. So the reason it went down as a proportion is because
Why?
the Japanese economy went like that, and the Chinese economy went like that, and European economies were still, you know, shooting up. So India becomes less proportionately of world GDP, not because they got done over by Britain, but just because loads of other global economies were doing much better, right? Is that fair to say?
No, it's not, because the manufacturing did not take place. For example, cotton was produced in India.
Okay.
Yes, most of the cotton was actually exported to Britain. So the clothes were manufactured and then sold back to the Indians at a much higher price. So instead of benefiting the people, like, you know, the reason I'm using colonialism, because it's because before, you know, the Muslims, before the United Nations, the Muslims used to conquer countries as well. Yes, so I'm not saying that it was only the prerogative, it was only something that the British were involved in. Many other nations, yes, they used to go and they used to take over
and that's
a country.
How it was.
That's
how it works.
Exactly, that was the norm. That was the norm.
Mohammed Hijab put this in a really nice way. He said this existed in a sort of climate of what international relations scholars call realism. This is the realism, the realists' paradigm of how global.
So if you were
relations
stronger
work.
than another country, they would just take a flag and hoist it in that country, and they say, "That's mine."
This is the Melian dialogue.
Yes.
Like
However, if you look at the history wherever Muslims went, that country actually prospered. So
I'm saying the same for the
So
British.
when they went to Spain or when they went to India, it actually prospered, and they did not take things back to that country to benefit their country.
Okay.
Yes.
Right.
So this was when you look at history, this is what I see. But when you look at wherever the Europeans went, whether it's the Portuguese or the Spanish or the English, yes, they actually completely sucked most of the resources of those countries, and they did not benefit much the local communities. And they destroyed look at most of Africa and Asia today. The reason they were impoverished is because the resources.
No, that's not true.
Africa and Asia, they have got really good resources in terms of like gold and diamond and minerals and iron ore, everything.
They're also genetically different from us.
What's that got to do with this?
Are you one of those people who think
Are they humans?
If it hasn't been to of course they're humans. Are you one of
So
those
how
people-
are they genetically different?
What do you mean? How are black people genetically different from white people?
What, they got more melanin?
Yeah.
Than you.
Okay.
How is that genetically different? Do they have same genes or different genes?
Wait, you think that skin differences in skin color, you don't think that's genetic?
No, I'm saying in terms of being a human, how does it differentiate them?
What do you mean? I don't understand.
Like you are a human, a black man is a human.
Oh no, of course it doesn't make. Of course, the skin pigmentation.
Okay, so what do you mean?
Less a human.
Why did you bring genetically different? Just by skin pigmentation? That's it?
No, it's obvious. I'm saying that's one example of a genetic difference.
Are you one of those people who consider black people to be less intelligent than you?
I think that there are IQ differences between racial groups. Of course, not all black people. That's a stupid thing. Thomas Sowell is smarter than me. Okay, Neil deGrasse Tyson is smarter than me.
Okay.
Plenty of white people are stupider than plenty of black people.
I'm glad you say that.
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's not discriminate them based on their genes, because
that's not discrimination. I'm sorry.
Even the skin color.
I'm not discriminating against any. Well, okay, discrimination is not necessarily a bad thing. Okay, you discriminate every time. You discriminate on who you wish to talk to. I've discriminated.
I don't actually.
No, yes you do. I discriminated against everyone else right now in favor of talking to you because I could be talking to someone over there.
Yeah, but you did it by volition. I didn't force you, did I?
No, I'm not saying it's forced. I'm saying it's a good thing.
Okay.
That's
I wouldn't. By the way,
willing discrimination.
By the way, choosing your interlocutor is not something I consider as discrimination. It's a choice not based on your skin color or that you are of a different culture. Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Discrimination actually implies that.
No, it doesn't.
If I choose to talk to
connotations today.
For example, if I choose not to talk to someone who's obnoxious, would you consider that discrimination?
Yes.
Well, that's
like in a good way. I wouldn't.
How can it be discrimination if I don't want to talk to a fool?
Of course, because you discriminate against people who are less intelligent. Why would you not?
No. A fool necessarily not less intelligent.
Yeah,
okay? He might be obnoxious for many other reasons.
I'll give you that.
Yes.
Right. Yeah, I discriminate against unpleasant people.
Exactly.
Everyone
but
does.
I wouldn't use the term discrimination.
I would. I guess that's a semantic difference.
It's basically your choice to speak to someone that you feel comfortable with. That's all it is.
For me, that's
it's
what
not discrimination.
For me, I think we're defining discrimination.
Discrimination is like, for example, if it's something prejudicial, then I would consider that to be discriminatory.
Okay.
Now, if you do not have any logical reason to talk to someone, then that would be discriminatory.
Yeah.
Yes? But I wouldn't consider not talking to someone who is obnoxious or who basically swears all the time, or who might be smoking in front of me when I don't like someone smoking in front of me, or blowing smoke in my face or something like that. I wouldn't call that discrimination.
I would. And in fact, you say, oh, I wouldn't. I think
Then we differ in our
yeah, we're differing in our semantics. But I also say the
of
same
our
about
definition.
prejudice. Okay,
Yeah.
I think that prejudice.
Anyway, sorry, where were we?
Prejudice is not a bad thing, you know. Like,
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry. So
what about
you brought this up because I mentioned genes, and I just said
Yeah.
it's not a racist thing to say that. Of course, different cultures are like different peoples with different genes are going to build different cultures. Of course they are. Like, why would you have any reason to think otherwise? Why would you have any reason to think that Africans?
But isn't that positive? Let's say you bring all these good things in a different cultures and then you work together. Wouldn't that be something better?
in the same country, in the same
yeah,
country. No,
might be in the same city.
No, oh, I don't want that.
And why is that?
Look at London.
What's
probably
wrong with
hard-
London?
London, we're
Look at the NHS.
the native.
How many white people run it?
What do you mean? Look at the NHS.
What I'm saying is that if you remove all the ethnic minorities from there,
I don't
the
wanna do
NHS will probably collapse. And so is the transport system
Yes,
here.
I think the NHS
What I'm
could
saying
do
is
with
that
a lot of reforming.
the NHS and the transport system here and many other systems in this country,
yeah.
I think they work quite well when we integrate all the different cultures together. They bring in their own specialities. They bring in their own variety, I would say, and that is a good thing.
I think it's not. So let me just clarify. Nobody.
Don't forget the restaurants.
yeah.
The English people love the Indian
the food,
curry.
the food. Multiculturalism. We can have curry while our culture's dying.
How many days? Yeah, how many days you're going to have fish and chips for? By the way, do you like curry?
I love curry.
There you go.
Back to topic.
Yeah, sorry. So I should just say, nobody in the nationalist movement that I know of denies that, like, foreign people or foreign-born people, okay, work hard.
Are you a nationalist?
No, not only work hard, bring benefit to the system.
Some do, not all.
What do you mean some? I would say the same thing with English people then.
Yeah,
Some English people benefit,
I would
some
say-
don't.
I would say
like this about every person. I
Okay,
can
so
say.
I would say, so regarding colonialism, generally the trend is.
Are we going back to colonialism?
Just briefly. Economic benefit, psychologically, awful. Okay, because you're robbing.
Whoa.
you're robbing
Not
Indians
just
of their property.
psychologically, physically. They were tortured during the slavery
Fine,
period.
fine.
Okay?
I would say that ultimately.
They
changes
used to take
psychology.
boatloads of people from Africa
yes.
all over the world, and you don't just say psychologically, my friend.
Fine,
Okay?
physically. I'm not trying to downplay. I'm just
No,
saying
but
I
you
believe-
did actually. You did downplay.
I
You tried
think
to
I did.
whitewash it.
I didn't try to whitewash it. That's
Okay, slavery was bad.
Whitewash. Right. No. I'm saying ultimately when you torture someone, you beat them. Why is that bad? It's because it has ultimately. I guess you could distinguish between.
All I'm saying is that what's wrong with working together? That's all I'm saying. What's wrong with working together?
What's wrong with working together with everyone in their own lands? What's wrong with trading between people? What's wrong with working together?
Yeah, I have no
as a
problem
world?
with that. Trading with people,
So why can't
working
we-
together.
so why can't we
I'm
do it
saying
in our own country?
why not work together in the same geographic location?
Because if we
now
carry
that
on-
we have
because
now
if we
that globalization has gone global,
Yeah.
why not?
Because why? Because if we carry on working together at the
Yeah.
same rate that we currently are, then soon enough there's going to be no more English people who will be able to work to offer what they can.
Breed more
what
babies.
everyone else.
Good.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Good point.
Absolutely.
The Greek
I
has got a good point.
By the way, I don't have anything against any foreign person. I blame my own government completely.
No.
It's not-
Why
it's not
only
a prejudice.
Wait. No.
I
Why?
know for birth rates.
So
right
you,
now.
so you're saying English people who decide to have only maybe 2 children or 1 child, do you think that's the government's fault? How?
That's okay. No, I should say not the current government's fault. I should say
No,
I should say-
even the past government. How is their fault?
I would say.
Did somebody force them to do that?
Not forced, but I would say, for example, the introduction of no-fault divorce in the 1960s.
Sorry, no-fault
divorce. Yeah, because people when you're married and especially when you're religious.
Is that a thing? You can divorce someone for no fault of this?
It's more of a legal term. It's just one example. I'm saying.
No, but I'm asking, is that a literal thing or?
Essentially it makes divorce a much easier thing to.
Yeah, but you cannot just go to the court of law and say I want a divorce and I give no reason. I think they have to give a reason, right? At least a reasonable reason.
It's more okay. That's like an extreme version of it, but it's much easier than it was before.
Okay. Okay, fair enough.
Measures like that, which are basically also the kind of, I would say, the kind of attack on Christianity culturally. It's as people have strived to make.
Christianity doesn't let you divorce at all, unless you committed adultery.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm saying.
Do you agree with that?
It depends how you interpret Christianity. I'm not here to have a theological.
No, but you believe in the Bible, right?
Sort of.
So you're not a Christian then?
Well,
Yes, well, sort of.
You can call me what you want. I don't care.
No, I don't want to call you anything. I want you to define yourself.
I'm just somebody who believes.
Are you a Christian, sir?
I'm someone who believes that there is a higher being that we call God, and I believe that the Christian conception of that is one of the most reasonable ways to interpret that. And I like the fact that my culture is historically Christian, but I also recognise the contributions that pagan culture has given us as well. And I have the deepest respect for people who have a conception of.
No, it's not about defining other people. I'm asking, how do you define yourself?
I define myself as a weird sort of
fusion,
a weird sort of fusion, a blend of kind of Christianity and paganism.
All right.
That's the short answer. Okay. Many of us, struggle with religious issues.
No. If you're not sure about
we can't all be,
if you're not
in ourselves like you Muslims.
No. There are many Muslims who might be confused as well.
True.
But most of them at least know the basics. Like for example, if you do not worship one God.
Basics.
And you submit to one God, or you basically commit shirk, like you associate others with God. This basic they know. Okay, so when
I know the.
So when I ask someone, "Are you a Muslim?" and they say yes, and then I say, "Hold on, but you also believe in Jesus to be God?" Then I don't consider you, but based on the rule of the Quran, that you are a Muslim because you just contradicted the Quran.
Sure, but
I'm sure the Christians will judge you in the same way.
They will, absolutely will. I'm sure.
That's the reason I asked you. What do you think?
I'm sure I'm a complete heretic, going to hell in the eyes of the Catholic Church. Okay.
All right.
And
Well, the Catholics are under the kettle of fish, but